Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kate Flavin, Public Information Officer with Sedgwick County. This is the special Board of County Commissioners meeting here on Friday, July 24th, 2020. There's one item to discuss, so Chairman, I will hand you the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Welcome, everybody that's joining us. Thank you, fellow commissioners, for being able to attend this special meeting that was called for today at Friday, July 24th at 1 o'clock. We will proceed with Madam Clerk. Please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Present.
Commissioner Dennis.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Cruz.
Present.
Chairman Meitzner.
Present. Next item, please.
New business. Item A, discussion of public health order of local health officer.
Okay.
Good morning, or good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for adjusting your schedules for this special meeting. For flow of discussion, let me recap the events of the last week to give a landscape on why we are back here again today. On Tuesday of this week, July 21st, County Health Officer Dr. Gerald Menz visited with the Board of Health in our weekly staff meeting and expressed concern about Sedgwick County's rising COVID numbers and associated increase in hospitalizations within the community. He informed the Commission at this time of his intention to issue a new order with further restriction, which were essentially threefold in nature. Number one, to reinforce the masking order, which had been in effect in the county since July 10th. Number two, to move us back to a phase 2 model, which essentially brought the gathering size numbers back to 15 from 45, but exempted churches, daycares, schools, courts, and elections from this gathering restriction. The third item was to temporarily close down the nightclub and bar scene in the county. The health officer based this particular decision on some local evidence indicating this environment facilitated the spread of the virus, as well as numerous publications indicating the nightlife environment, by its very nature, serves to facilitate the spread of the virus. Additionally, across the nation in Texas, Colorado, Michigan, Illinois, Tennessee, California, Maryland, Nevada, and other states, urban cities and counties are also closing bars and nightclubs after seeing large spikes of COVID cases, just as Sedgwick County has seen. Staff has forwarded many of these articles to the Board of Health for your review at your convenience. On Wednesday of this week, July 22nd, the Board of County Commissioners voted to support and approve this order with 4 amendments. The first amendment was to change the mask requirement for children from 5 years of age to 11. The second amendment was to exempt swimming pools from the order. The third amendment was to change the date length of the order and reduce it to 4 weeks instead of the approximate 7 weeks that Dr. Menz had suggested. And the fourth amendment was to remove the early close time of midnight for drinking establishment restaurants, to remove that. Yesterday, on July 23rd, Thursday, staff received information from the City of Wichita licensing component regarding businesses who would be affected by this order. In essence, the list contained a number of businesses who are licensed as drinking establishments that would close as a result of the order. It also provided a list of drinking establishment restaurants who would not be closed. In review of this DER list, drinking establishment restaurant list, it became clear that many of the venues listed morph into a nightclub environment in the later hours of the night during normal operations. This fact clearly did not meet the spirit of the order that Dr. Menz had articulated to the Commission on Tuesday during the staff meeting. After some discussion with health officials and the health officer, some members of the Board of Health requested to bring this item back to revisit this fourth amendment from Wednesday listed above, concerning earlier closure times for the drinking establishment restaurants. Chairman, at this point, I'll turn this back to you. This kind of lays the landscape of why we're here today, and I'll turn the meeting back over to you, sir.
Okay, well, thank you, Tom, for that summary. I think it's important to note that we did make one of the, and this is the reason for our meeting really is to revisit the one sentence that we took out I think from my perspective, the intent was to help curb this rapid growth of positive tests in the 40 and under age bracket, and because of the contact tracing and others, it was determined that these late nightclubs were a source, and you made reference to other parts of the country as well. So and then we got feedback, and so we got information after we made the vote Wednesday on that is detrimental, as Tom had said, to the spirit of what the health officer's order was intended to do, which was try to slow the accelerated growth rate of the under 40 positive testing that's going on, plus keep the rest of the community economy going and prepare in these next few weeks so we can help make sure that try to assure a positive environment for the kids to get back in school. So with that, we've had some of us have had, I'm sure, some feedback from the community, and with that, be glad to open it up for any questions or comments. And Mr. Howell, Commissioner Howell, sorry about that, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Just since we have this open in front of us, I'd like to talk about the school situation just a moment. I was contemplating a resolution that would exempt our local schools in Sedgwick County from the governor's executive order. It has been opined by the state attorney general that we do have that authority, but they also opined that the schools do have the authority right now to make those choices in their local school systems. And I respect that very much. But just to clean this up a little bit, as manager spoke a moment ago, in this order, it does exempt schools, public and private, from the gathering restrictions in this order. But it does not exempt our schools from the mask aspect of this order. So just to keep things clean, I would like to see an amendment to exempt schools, public and private, all of their property, all of their operations, and give this full authority to our school system, so that it's not muddied, the waters are not muddied by Sedgwick County having an additional order to consider with respect to schools. That this does not do anything for the continued Wichita mask mandate. So if you are a fourth grader inside of a Wichita school, if I understand correctly, that mask mandate would still apply to you if you're in a Wichita school inside of Wichita city limits. But trying to keep this as simple as possible, I think the county order needs to not speak to the issue of schools. Let them do that. They are elected officials. They can certainly receive information from the state and the county in terms of best practices, and they can make a choice what's best for them in their districts. So I'd like to make a motion that we would expand our exemption to clarify that the mask aspect of this order does not apply to our school systems, knowing, and the explanation of that is knowing that they have the authority to make that decision on their own. That's my motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Dennis. I was going to ask you if you had a comment because you had more direct information.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Actually, our Dr. Menz, Adrian, manager, Tim Kaufman, Justin Wagner, Lindsay Poso, myself, we all have been in meetings 2 times this week with all of the superintendents here within Sedgwick County. And each of those superintendents are working plans on how to safely get their schools open, how to safely protect their students, and also the staff. And I don't know that we need any additional guidance in order for them to be able to do that, because they felt very comfortable with having their Board of Education be able to make the decision. And their Board of Education is separately elected, and they have the capability of doing that. There are great plans in place right now by every single school district that works here in Sedgwick County. So I'm not going to second the motion because I don't think it's needed right now, because we need to trust those superintendents and those Board of Education members to be able to take care of their individual school districts. And I hate to put anything out that's one size fits all on the school districts. As I told them yesterday when I was on the conference call with them, what happens in USD 259 in Wichita, it can be completely different than what happens out in my little school district out in Renwick. So we don't need some kind of a blanket direction. I believe that they can make their mind up on their own. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell?
Thank you. So I guess I'm confused. Maybe Mr. Rapoon can answer this question, but would Commissioner Howell's amendment just send this to the school districts to make their own decisions? Or would it completely exempt students?
As I understand Commissioner Howell's motion, what we would do is revise the resolution you have in front of you to make sure that none of the masking requirements applies to school people in the public or private schools.
Okay. I would be supportive of, I think, what Commissioner Dennis was saying, let the school districts make their own decisions.
Now, I will say that if you saw the Attorney General's comments, that's essentially his position anyway, is that he thinks the school districts could operate independently of both the county commissioners and the governor in terms of using their authority, home rule authority, to establish their own processes in the schools.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Commissioner Howell?
It's interesting, thank you, Chairman. It's interesting that the comments were just made by two previous speakers, that if we trust those elected officials and want to give them full authority, we need to add an amendment to this resolution. This takes the decision away from those local schools and makes the decision for them. If you want to give authority back to the schools, we need to amend this order. I understand they've been given authority by the state to make a decision. But for example, in Wichita, the mask order does apply to all individuals. I believe it's ages 6 and above. I believe 5 and below is exempt. I may have that backwards. Maybe 5. I'm not sure if 5 is included or not included right now. But nevertheless, in Wichita, that decision's been made for schools. They do not have the option in Wichita, unless Wichita changes their mask order to allow schools to have the decision authority. Much like our order takes the decision away for schools in the unincorporated. If you are in a school system, let's say in the city of Goddard, for example, and you wanted to deal with junior high students differently than you would high school students, you would not have that authority because we're making the decision for them. And I'm just saying that since I believe we should trust those elected officials to make the best policy choices for their school districts. I trust them and believe they ought to have the authority completely to make that decision. So in order for that to happen, we need to back out and let them have that full authority. Otherwise, the order as it's currently written makes a decision for them. Thank you.
Commissioner Dennis?
Thank you. And the mask issue was the very first thing we talked about yesterday. And Justin Wagner explained exactly what is going on with the mask issue. And there were no questions, no problems whatsoever with our order from Dr. Menz. They fully understood what's going on. We asked them directly if there was anything else that needed to be done, and they are very comfortable with where we're at. So I think we're just kind of muddying the water if we continue to try and make adjustments to this order. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you, Chairman. So yesterday, the Board of Education did accept the governor's executive order to include mandates on masks. So how does the governor's order and our order differ?
I think the position the governor's office has taken is that the State Board of Education didn't really have the authority to modify her mask order. State Board of Education had the authority to keep the governor from shutting down schools and had to have a vote there. The governor's order, as far as I know, is still in place with respect to schools, except that you have, again, the AG, Attorney General Derek Schmidt, saying that that order is invalid with respect to school districts in his mind. But that order would apply to masks being worn by all school children. There wasn't an age limit in that. There was an age limit regard to children other than students. But any student in the public schools under the governor's order would be required to wear a mask. And of course, all the other teachers and other support staff that you have in the schools. But you have a governor's order in effect, you have the county's mask order in effect of Dr. Menz, you have the city's ordinance, mask order in effect, all of them kind of coexisting right now, and I think the school districts understand that they need to follow their own guidance, but look at the most restrictive one that would apply, because if you have a conflict between 11-year-old and 5, you're going to go with the more restrictive mask order in that particular case. And so I assume most of the school districts are going to be following what the governor's guidelines are at this point, or drafting their own policies at their local level.
So in your opinion, is what Commissioner Howell is trying to do, is it necessary?
That's a hard answer to make. I mean, in part, what Commissioner Howell's doing is just trying to clean up some of the ambiguity that's out there. But as Commissioner Dennis says, too, he doesn't know that the school districts are having that much trouble with the ambiguity. So I hate to weigh in on whether or not that particular motion is needed or not. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Howell?
Okay, just to clarify, it sounds like there's not going to be a second. We're not going to vote on this probably. That's fine. But just to clarify, the state has given the authority to the schools, except for if you're inside the city of Wichita. And because of our order, if you're anywhere in Sedgwick County, we're making the decision as well. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if we trust those elected officials, we believe in local control, we believe in not a one-size-fits-all, we believe that these folks should make policy based on what's best for them and their district. They are accountable to the people that they serve. We should just step away and let them have that full authority. It doesn't mean that they're going to do anything differently necessarily, but there very well might be a district out there that would want to do something differently. I have talked to school board members who have a desire to have elementary school age children not wear masks, and there's some debate even among the school board members about junior high. Nevertheless, I think that debate belongs on their board. I don't think we ought not to insert ourselves between them and their responsibilities as school board members. This is unnecessary, and again, I just think that we ought to trust them, and that's all. That's the reason for this, is trying to clean things up and make it simple. With multiple orders overlapping, to me, it's unnecessarily confusing. Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you. I'd like to clarify, I was referring to the USD 259 school board had voted. I don't want to make the assumption that all school boards had voted. So I'd like to clear that up for the record as to what exactly I was talking about.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Commissioner Dennis?
Thank you. And just to be clear, if you look at the order that Commissioner Howell is talking about from the city of Wichita, it expires on August the 11th. And the school board voted yesterday, I believe, to start school on September 9th, as I recall. So their order will have expired long before school starts. Thank you.
Okay. So, in essence, what we did Wednesday on masking, changing the age, we didn't need to change. We didn't need to go
No,
there.
that's not true, sir. Mr. Chairman, if you are not in school, let's say you're shopping with your parents at a grocery store, if you're age 12 and above, you have to wear a mask because of our order. Our order is overarching. It has nothing to do with schools specifically. I believe that the elected officials that deal with schools ought to have the authority to make policy for their property and their operations and inside their system. Let them do that. But everything else falls under our order. Right now, it's age 11. And although Wichita's mask order expires soon, I expect they'll probably extend that or change it somehow. Nevertheless, if theirs expires, ours is still in place. So if you're in the 6th grade in some school that they don't believe there's a problem in their system and they want to make a choice to not have 6th graders wear masks, our order will force them to wear a mask. We're taking that decision authority away from that school's board because of our order. I say, just let the schools manage this. Let them have the full authority. We believe in local control. Let them do it.
Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you. I realize that there are a lot of mask orders in place. I think, we essentially created more confusion by adding a different age limit than what was at the state and at the city of Wichita, because their age limits are 5. So if someone were to go from, say, Valley Center to Park City and come into Wichita, they would have a different age requirement. So if anything, I think it would be in the best interest of all of our community to make it succinct with the state and the city, just so that we have cohesiveness. That's what a lot of people are asking for. In light of all of the confusion that's happening, if there are going to be orders in place, it would make sense that they match so people understand them.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you. I should have gone one step further because I mentioned the City of Wichita's mask ordinance expires on the 11th. But ours, as I recall, and we added some discussion back and forth on the date, but I think ours expires like August 20th. 21st. And 21st, okay, thank you. And which is also before the school will go back into effect for City of Wichita. So trying to change something right now for Wichita or for any of the other ones when it is not going to be in effect, what if we have to take any other action later on, which I hope we don't, we can clean this up. But right now, it's kind of a moot point, honestly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I don't see any other comments. There's been a motion and a second to exempt schools from the orders that we adopted. So, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell? Aye. Commissioner Dennis?
No.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
No.
Chairman Meitzner?
No. Okay, the motion fails 3-2. Moving on, Tom, could you explain some of the confusion that we've also discovered between drinking DERs, drinking establishment restaurants, and DEs, which is drinking establishments?
Yes, sir. It really comes down to food sales and restaurant capacity for these businesses to be classified in Wichita and licensed as a drinking establishment restaurant. You have to have 30% of your gross sales be in food or other commodities. If you have less than 30%, you're classified as a drinking establishment. And so when we were hearing what Dr. Min's concerns were on Tuesday, and getting the number and getting the listings from the city of Wichita yesterday, there were drinking establishment restaurants that provide a nightclub venue after certain hours, after their dinner hours are over, and that is a lot of the reason why we are back here today.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. And the enforcement on licensing, liquor licensing for either a DER or a DE is, how's that in,
That is administrated through the city of Wichita. They have an audit process. If there is a business in question, they will audit receipts and validate that 30% of their total sales are food related. They have a administrative capacity to do that, but it is administrated by the city of Wichita.
Okay, well, thanks for that explanation. I hope that the public is more familiar with that. And with that, what happened, what's been discovered is to kind of repeat what Tom said, but there are some great places in town that have food sales during the lunch hour, food sales during the after work hours, even into the evening, and then, like was said earlier, then at the 10 o'clock hour or whatever hour they chose, it pretty much turns into this broad-based nightclub environment that we thought we were trying to help control by the order from the Sedgwick County Health Officer, and then we discovered that it didn't, and that's probably the reason why that last sentence was in there. We just didn't have the full explanation. We didn't have the full explanation of the difference, but we also didn't have the full explanation. We didn't have a list of what the DEs would be that would be closed per the health officer's order, and we didn't have a list of the ones that would not be closed that would fall into this area that we were trying to work on. I have had subsequent conversations with numerous DERs. Again, that's the drinking plus restaurant. And I've had some discussions with some liquor and wine distributors because I felt that they also are, their salespeople are on the streets with all their clients, and they kind of confirmed what I just had said about some of these great places are, they're something by day and then there's something else by night, and not that it's bad, but that's just the way that some of the market is working. So with that, I want to propose that we go back to the original number 5, section 5, that was on page 6, number 5, which when we did a amendment, we did exactly those words, but just didn't include the last sentence. But if we include the last sentence, my motion would be to include the last sentence, to redo it with the last sentence again, meaning all other businesses that are not bars and nightclubs that are licensed to sell alcohol for on-premise consumption must abide by a curfew and close by 12 o'clock a.m., which is midnight. That would be my motion,
Second.
and there is a second. I would also like to add, or go ahead, Commissioner Dennis, open for comments. Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Let me pass this down first before I make my comments.
Okay.
I appreciate that. One of the problems that we have when we have off-agenda items and we start trying to make sausage from the bench is sometimes it's not very tasty after we get done with it. And as a result of that, when I was listening to the requirement or the motion to delete that last sentence from the order, I was thinking about the restaurants that I normally go to, and some of these do turn into bars later on, but I'm not aware of it because I don't go to the bar scenes. So a great restaurant that I have just real close here in Old Town that I have lunch in and dinner at sometimes, I learned that after midnight it's completely different, and I wasn't aware of that. And that's the reason why it's better if we staff these and we can get full information before we make decisions. I said during our last meeting that as we try and change things during the meeting, it becomes a problem because it's not fully staffed. So that's why I will support this motion, because we made it without the full information that we needed to make a wise decision. Now, let me go on a step further and kind of address a little different aspect of this. I was really disappointed yesterday when I started seeing what the mayor had to say about Sedgwick County. The mayor said that we gutted this. Well, we honestly were doing what we thought was right at the time without being staffed. But for him to go out on social media, as he does all the time, for him to go directly to the media, as he does all the time, and start calling out Sedgwick County is absolutely wrong. When I ran for this office 4 years ago, I ran for the office and said that we are going to improve relations between Wichita and Sedgwick County, because when I was running, there was almost a wall between Wichita and Sedgwick County. We had a tunnel between the two buildings that was closed. You couldn't even go back and forth between the two buildings in the tunnel. And one of my first actions was to get that tunnel opened up so that we show that we work as partners. As soon as I saw that that the new mayor was elected, I went up to him and gave him my card on 2 different occasions and said, please reach out to us if you've got anything whatsoever. After he was sworn in, I went over to his office, asked for an appointment, sit down in his office and said, please, if there's any concern that you have with Sedgwick County, here's my card, and I wrote my cell phone number on the back of my card so that he could call. Not one time since he has been elected or since he's been sworn in has he ever reached out to me for any reason whatsoever, but he goes directly to social media, he goes directly to the media, and calls out Sedgwick County over and over again. We have 6 great city council members. I am very proud to call all 6 of them my friends, and I talk to them frequently. Unfortunately, we don't have a mayor that can do that. And so I'm calling right now for the media, and I don't go on social media a lot myself, but I'm asking the media, let the mayor know that we are here. If he's got a problem, reach out to us. We listen to our other elected officials. Just as we were talking about today, we reach out to our elected officials on the Board of Education, and I'd be happy anytime that if he's got a concern, but don't stand up and say that you're doing everything right and Sedgwick County is doing everything wrong, because every time I'm going to defend Sedgwick County, and we have the greatest staff of people here that keep us informed and keep us out of trouble. And that's what we're doing today, is that once we learned that we didn't have all the facts, our staff came to me and said, hey, these are the facts, you need to make some changes, and that's where we're at today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Dennis. Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. These are extremely difficult times, and there are a lot of gut-wrenching decisions that we have to make on really a daily basis, it seems. So I understand that people use tools in different ways. We did have a conversation yesterday at the behest of our chairman and our manager to have a conversation with the mayor and the vice mayor and myself and the chairman to discuss this. And you know, I will apologize to my colleagues, to Commissioner Howell, Commissioner Dennis, and Commissioner O'Donnell for not relaying that information because things have been happening quickly. The last thing that we need is any more turmoil, because the only way to beat this virus is to come together as a community. We have all listened, some of us more carefully than others, to the medical and public health experts. And we have tried to make informed decisions, many of us non-political decisions. As the chairman stated many weeks ago, this is not a red virus, this is not a blue virus. This is a virus that affects anybody, age, race, doesn't matter. So we have to come together as a community and do everything we can to slow this virus down. Because when our hospitals get full, like we saw yesterday at our friends down south at the Tulsa metro area, they had 1 bed. A patient waiting to get into the hospital had to wait 5 hours to get a bed. And now they're full. I completely understand the economics of this. And I have not been sleeping well. I have not had the opportunity to really... I just want to say I recognize the extreme challenges of this pandemic and the efforts, the many efforts to reduce the spread. We have a great challenge right now with our businesses that are about to be shut down. And my heart and every single decision I make, these are not easy decisions to make. They're extremely difficult and ones that I don't want to make, but here I am sitting up here. I understand the challenges of the continued spread that this virus presents for our community in terms of number of deaths, the long-term health effects that are still widely unknown, and the increased strain on our medical community. And now, as schools are quickly approaching, we must be mindful to help mitigate the anxiety that many of our teachers, administrators, staff, and students are facing and will continue to face in the coming months. I hope that we can come together, because that's the only thing that we have besides the 3 tools in our toolbox to get rid of this virus or to slow it down, so that when someone you love, when someone you're close to gets sick, there's space available for them to receive the care that they need. And let's not forget that all of our other health conditions still continue. It's not because of this virus that they all just go away. So now we're fighting all the other health conditions plus a virus. We want to make sure that you yourself, your families, your friends, your colleagues, there's space for them in our hospital system to receive the care that they need to get well. I will continue to do all I can to make this better. What better is, I don't know. But I will be working diligently over the next days and the next weeks to find tangible solutions for those in our community the most affected by this pandemic. We have got to get our arms around this. We've got to work together. And I will take a moment to this is hard. At times, I lose my cool. This is a lot, and I would appreciate that everybody give everyone grace. So I just want to close by saying, Dr. Norman said it best yesterday. He said, we have to start fighting the virus and not each other. Please, let's work together. Let's understand this is not forever, because the only thing that we have is each other. Thank you.
Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't feel like I need to repeat myself from what I said on Wednesday, but I do think there may be a different audience listening today, so I do want to share some of my rationale for not supporting the motion today. We have in this order a gathering limit of 15. We require masks by everyone unless you're eating and drinking, and social distancing guidelines must be followed. So if you're a business, you must adopt and embrace and follow these rules that are within this order today. On top of that, for any business that chooses to disregard the order, there is a aspect of liability. Mr. Wagner the other day explained this very well. I won't explain it today, but I believe that there's an issue that they are accepting liability for disregarding an official government order. Furthermore, for bad players that are out there, should they disregard the order, we have the option of an injunction. And within the city of Wichita, they could strip them of their business license, the license that would allow them to sell alcohol, at least. And on top of that, there are individual options of fines, civil fines, penalties for people who disregard wearing a mask when they're supposed to wear a mask. So that's a lot of remedies that are out there available. We have made the assumption that these businesses are going to do the wrong thing. I would let them know that if we did not adopt this order today, and we did not adopt the order on Wednesday, that their options are embrace these guidelines and follow them, or risk having to be shut down, lose your license, or have an injunction, or have liabilities. And so I don't know that we should assume that these are going to be bad players. I think given those understandings, these businesses, most of them, I think will do the right thing. Small businesses make up the very greatest bulk of our economy. They've already been out of business, many of them for several months, a couple of months at least. It was interesting, we shut down barbershops, salons, and fingernail shops and places like that for several months. And then later on, it was stated that not one cluster was centered on one of those businesses because they wear masks. And so I would look backwards and say, maybe we shouldn't have shut them down in the first place. That was tragic that we took these businesses and really harmed them economically for a couple of months because we didn't have the right rules in place. I would say that COVID-19 is a very serious situation. We need to respect this virus. There is real risk to everyone. Socially distancing, wearing masks, those are reasonable, easy things for us to do. Gathering limits, as much as I don't like them, I think it makes some sense. But to close down businesses, in my opinion, is going a step too far. I expect every business to have the same rules and to follow the same rules or suffer the consequences, which could be very harmful to that particular business in terms of not being able to operate, having to be shut down, having injunctions, having your patrons fined, and on it goes. So I think this is unnecessary again today. I would argue that of the age groups 20 to 39, we've had 1,294 cases, according to our dashboard, and ages 40 to 59, we've had 855. A quick calculation tells me we have about 37% of those are still active, potentially. Majority, I'd say, maybe not the majority, but anecdotally, probably half of people in those age ranges never go to one of these businesses. They're not part of the crowd that goes out and drinks and disregards the orders. So we are being especially harmful for these businesses. This is we are making lots of assumptions to target these businesses as the problem in Sedgwick County. Even with these businesses closed, the very same people will find other ways to entertain themselves, and they will have access to alcohol and social gatherings other places. This isn't solving the problem, it's simply shifting the problem. So with that, I'm going to vote no on the motion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Echoing some of the comments I had from the other day, my concern is that we are picking winners and losers with this ordinance. My concern is that we don't really have an off-ramp because I know this is supposed to last 1 month, but then again, the last shutdown order had dates that were just extended and extended and extended. And I think we need to tell these bar owners they need some certainty. I think these restaurant and bars and nightclub owners need to have some certainty that in 30 days and 60 days you can absolutely open back up. But I was talking to one manager earlier today and he doesn't think that we're going to be up by the end of the year. But I just think we need to be honest with these individuals. We need to be offering them hope, offering them some of the financial resources that the feds gave us. Some of the 99 large would be helpful. But my heart does break for these people because so many are good actors and we're punishing the good actors. This vote today is going to put a lot of people in our community out of work. Normally we celebrate by bringing new jobs to Wichita and Sedgwick County and retaining jobs, and we're putting a lot of people out of work that they work paycheck to paycheck. Their stimulus money's running out next week. I hope we remember that when Fridays come and every other Friday when we get our paycheck. I hope we remember this vote that we put people out of work that aren't going to get a paycheck and not going to get federal unemployment. And those are the people that I'm concerned about, and that there's a lot of good actors because every community in America is dealing with the coronavirus, and there are no perfect answers, but I just think a lot of good actors are being put out of business, and that's sad. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your comments. As you can see, this is a very emotional and a very thoughtful challenge as a commissioners. And they've all put a lot of thought into it. This is, fortunately, this is not a stay-at-home order. This is not a shut down the economy where we have essential businesses and non-essential businesses like it happened before. It appears to be a strategic, the best I can assume, it seems to be a strategic attempt by the Sedgwick County Health Officer to target where they think a source of the spread of this virus is at this time. As he said before, the summertime was supposed to, UV lighting and heat was supposed to help, and it did not help. As a matter of fact, states like Florida and Texas and Arizona that have a lot of heat, they're the ones that have the growth of this. And our city has had some hot weather recently as well, so we're experiencing some of the growth too of the positive cases. But that said, this is not this order, from what I can tell, that Dr. Menz is the Sedgwick County officers. He's done this with careful thought, and it's not a direct order from the White House. We're not adopting something directly from the White House. We're not adopting something from the governor. We're not adopting something from comments from the mayor. The proposed vote is about our community, and Tom has mentioned before, we've got to take care of ourselves, and we are regional hospitals as well. But I tell you, we are trying to take care the best we can of our area based on our hospitals, our economy, and based on the data that is available today. And who knows how fast that can change. We all know it's changing. So with that, I've also feel a sense of sorrow for a lot of the commissioners and a lot of people. This thing, I have a large family, and 6 of my 7 siblings still live in here, and it causes a dismay in our own family with opinions. Friendships are being stretched to times that are very awkward for as an elected official to be part of this. It's not fun. It is not fun at all. And but we're all trying to do the best we can with the best thoughts that we have. So I don't see any other comments, Madam Clerk.
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, Mike Papoon, County Councilor. As I understand your motion, what we have done, what our office
Oh, yes,
has
thank
done.
you, Mike. Yeah,
has
thank you. You're right.
drafted a resolution which I think captures exactly what you're doing. It essentially affirms the order of Dr. Menz with 3 minor changes, and we excluded the change of going against Dr. Menz's recommendation for a curfew on drinking establishment
Right.
restaurants. So I
So-
believe this resolution will cover exactly what you want to do if you would move to adopt the proposed resolution.
Okay, and because that's, you're right, it now covers, the 3 exemptions are the 11 years, the swimming pools, and and then a 4-week instead of 7-week. Again, it's 4 weeks, and we will be looking at this daily, weekly for sure.
Chairman,
So-
one other technical issue I want to bring up, not knowing how the vote's going to go, if the vote is negative, it's moot, but if it's positive, just from a timing perspective, the original Dr. Menz order from Wednesday morning when he issued it went into effect last night, so it's in effect today. If the commission puts this curfew back into place, and we can go either way, but it would be effective essentially today, which means that DERs would have to close at midnight tonight. It is possible, if the commission would consider, that we could give them an extra day on this so that they could stay open normal hours tonight and make their changes for tomorrow night. And I believe, Mr. Papoon, we have a resolution, if that is the desire of the board, if the board passes this. I don't know how the vote's going to go. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that if you want to give them a little bit more notice, then we always try to give them a little bit of notice if we're going to change the rules on them, and we're changing potentially the rules today. I just wanted to know if you want to give them an extra day. So.
Okay. I think that's good advice. So do I amend this order? Do I amend this motion, or do I, it's a separate motion that we make it effective?
I have a draft of this resolution with, and only applying to drinking establishment restaurants, that it would be, that the effective time of that order would be 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, essentially, tonight. So it would allow them to operate tonight.
Tonight.
But beginning Saturday night, they wouldn't be able to stay out.
So Saturday night would
Stay
be
out
effectively the
as
midnight?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a separate motion.
I would make. I would
Separate
make-
resolution, okay.
Right.
Okay, Commissioners, you have the resolution that motioned and second on. I don't see any other comments. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
No.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
No.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries 3-2. Now we'd like to do a similar resolution that this,
You can move right now to modify that resolution to have a start date for drinking establishment restaurants at 2 a.m. tomorrow
Okay.
morning.
I make a motion that the effective time of start on this resolution would be 2 a.m. on Saturday morning, July what?
25th.
July 25th.
Second?
Motion and a second. Madam, any other comments? Being none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
No.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
No.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. With that, I don't see any other business, so I don't see any other comments at this time, so we will stand adjourned.